Welcome back to Tap Tempo with me, Matt Lange. This week on the show, I have singer-songwriter and artist Bright Lights, also known as Heather Bright. In a previous life, Heather wrote songs for artists such as Britney Spears, Usher, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, etc., and these days she's a fully independent artist. I've learned she's always a bit ahead of the curve, and anecdotally, 3 years ago, she told me about some phone app that I thought was utterly idiotic, and it was called TikTok. So who's laughing now? So, case in point, when Heather speaks, you should listen, because she definitely made my head spin a few times in this. Her knowledge of music business is so forward-thinking, and it's truly a pleasure listening to her. And I hope you get as much out of this as I did. So, fun fact, you were the first person on Tap Tempo ever.
That's so awesome. And now I'm back.
You're back. You're number 4, season 2.
Hell yeah.
But you know what's crazy? Because I found this picture of us doing the first one, and it was done almost exactly 4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was January of 2017.
That does not seem like 4 years ago.
No, well, the last 2 years disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was 4 years ago, and I wanted to have you on the show right now. Of course, I mean, obviously you're awesome, but especially what you started doing, or at least what I noticed in the last couple of months, you're doing all of these music business talks, and whether it's on TikTok or Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, and obviously, you know, you're no spring chicken, so it's actually coming from a real accredited source, which is really encouraging, as opposed to, like, I see like a lot of like garbage on YouTube who are preaching about this kind of stuff and they've never left their parents' bedroom.
Well, it's coming from a place of experience.
Yeah. And what was the impetus to start really doing it?
Just realizing that things about our business that need to change will never change until artists start fighting for what's right and fighting for what they should have,
Yeah, right. And the other thing, I mean, because this actually just happened, Neil Young and Spotify.
Yeah. Brand new.
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing too, because I'm on both sides of this, because I mean, I am no fan of Spotify as a company by any means. From a user experience, they're brilliant. They've made a great product that
it's a great platform for consumers.
For consumers, it's a fantastic consumer platform, and it is the worst thing ever for artists.
Yeah,
but
it's tough for us.
It is, but the thing that makes it difficult too is that since the majority of the listener base is on Spotify, if you're not on Spotify, you're ultimately punishing your own fans.
Yeah. I mean, you're just leaving people out, you're leaving people out because, most people don't have Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal, and you know what I mean? You kind of pick and choose. It's like, people having Netflix or Hulu. Some people have both, but most people are like on one platform.
Yeah.
For their streaming. And Spotify spent considerably more money, developing their platform as opposed to Apple. Apple is, more concerned with selling laptops and, $1,500 phones. So, I mean, from a business perspective, I get it. I get Apple not wanting to focus on streaming. It's just sort of like a nice bonus for them. Apple Music seems to be the icing on their cake, But yeah, it's just, I really wish that there wasn't such a conflict of interest between the label and the labels are shareholders in Spotify. The labels have the shareholders, the presidents, the general managers of all of these huge labels. They all own Spotify.
Yep.
So what's the incentive to negotiate a proper, fair rate? what's the need to like really pay songwriters? What's the need to really take care of the creatives when you're profiting on both sides, you know?
Yeah,
So
that's very unethical double dipping.
yeah, so it's the nature of the beast, and we can really dive way deep into the hole and go so far as to talk about capitalism and things like that, but it's
Yeah.
just the nature of corporations. And when you're dealing with people or entities that care more about money than they do about human beings and relationships, then this is where we end up,
Right. And I mean,
essentially.
we see that culturally wide right now in
Yeah,
general.
yeah.
Obviously, the
Mhm.
music industry is a special place. But
Mhm.
I mean, and you do everything pretty much independently at this point anyway, right?
At this point, yeah. I mean, I think last year I turned down 7 record deals
Yeah.
just because I'm just looking at these deals, and they're the same deals that they've been for, like 5, 10 years
Right.
essentially. Like nothing's really changed about these deals. And I've had so many records play out in different deal scenarios, and I still have nothing to show for it. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Not
sitting here with literally nothing to show for hit after hit after hit after hit. So
and
it's
yet
like,
you have no shortage of them, that's for sure.
yeah, so it's like,
Yeah.
why would I continue to play into that system? Why would I continue to sign these deals? It just makes no
Well,
sense.
that would be the literal definition of insanity right there.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. So, like starting to learn Web3 and
Hmm.
opening my business up to other streams of revenue, like these classes that I'm doing,
Yeah.
it's just learning. I feel like COVID really showed us who the hustlers are. You know what
I
I
think so.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like who really just can get their money regardless.
Hmm.
And I'm one of those people, like my bills are going to be paid,
Right. Right.
and I'm going to make sure that happens however I need to make that happen. And it's just unfortunate, there's a lot of songwriters especially just in really bad positions, like songwriters
Yep.
waiting tables,
Hmm.
huge songwriters waiting tables or driving Uber, or one of my friends, his boy had the number 2 record in the country, a couple months ago, and had to call him and be like, bro, can you cash at me? So I need to eat.
Right. Well,
Like
he won't see the money for that if there's, for a
he'll
year.
he'll see the money for in 12 to 24 months
Right.
on that record. So
Yep.
his song is playing on the radio and he's broke.
Well, I mean,
You
you had that
know,
story. I remember where I can't remember if it was the Justin Bieber
it
song
was the
or
Bieber record.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you were living in your car.
I no, that was not the Bieber record. That was the Porter Robinson record.
Oh, it was Porter's.
That was
Okay.
the Porter record.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Right.
the Sleeping in My Car Porter record.
Right.
And then yeah, the Bieber record was still a car story, which is so funny.
Was that when the car
Um
broke down?
Yeah, my car was breaking down
That
on the 101 as
that's
I'm
what
hearing my song on the radio.
that's what it was. Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean,
Mhm.
what what's the worst record deal you've ever had? I remember mine clear as day.
Um, the worst record deal I've ever had was I did the vocal. I wrote the
Hmm.
song. I recorded the vocal. I mixed the vocal. I delivered a 2-track file.
Yeah.
They dropped it into the session. It became a huge hit. I had no master royalties. I had no upfront fee or advance. And they gave me 5% of the publishing.
I bet you said a lot of dirty language after that.
And that was it.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
um I remember I had it was a record deal with a European label, a dance label, and this was right around the time streaming was started kind of like becoming a thing, but
Hmm.
not that bad. It wasn't, the main thing yet. like people still actually bought things for once.
Right.
But it was they weren't a major label. I mean, they kind of acted like one, but already the deal was 86-14 in their favor percent.
Mm-hmm.
But then they had a clause for basically all means of digital exploitation would be 50% of that 14%. So effectively,
No.
my royalty rate is 7%.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
That's the worst I've ever. And I mean, I have the publishing on it, but like that doesn't matter. It's
Yeah, the publishing is worth less than a fifth of what the master is worth.
Yeah, it's nothing. But and it's not like these records were going to be played on. Actually, I mean, I guess some of them got on like dance radio, but I mean, I don't know. I think it was a 1,000 euro advance or something like that. To this day, I'm not entirely sure I've actually recouped it.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Not at 7%.
No, not at 7% when, it's 0.3 of a penny. So yeah. It's,
I'm about to do a TikTok video this coming week about some of the worst clauses that I've ever seen in deals.
Oh yeah, what are some of those?
Yeah, and so a couple of those are oh man, one of the worst was that I can't perform my own song live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen that in the contract that the record label has to approve me performing my own song live.
Was this
and I was like, what is this? What is this?
And this was you as the main artist or a feature?
No, this was me as a feature artist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I was just like, why do I need permission to sing my own record that I wrote? That's my vocal. Yep. That's the only time I ever saw that clause in a contract. And I've done, 60 features?
Has it been? I guess so. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and then there was another one that said, oh, this is one of my favorites. We have the right to hire an actor or actress to play you in the music video and lip sync your part.
Wow.
Like, what, am I not pretty enough for you? Or whatever their mindset was behind that. I didn't even care, but I just thought it was so shady. I'm just like, no, you can't put another girl in my music video lip syncing my vocal. Like, what is that? And then another one of my favorite ones was a big movie studio. Huge, one of the biggest movie studios. And, Bright Lights is based on a screenplay. I've known you for a long time. You know that.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, and so Bright Lights is the name of a screenplay that I wrote a long time ago. And this company wanted to talk about making the screenplay into a webisode series that could potentially go into a TV show. Okay. Like, if the webisode series did well, then they would move it into an actual TV show. So I had the script, like everything was ready to go. I had a production Bible. And then my manager sends me, it actually wasn't my manager, it was my manager or like my day-to-day person with YouTube. I think it was YouTube. Mm-hmm. And they said, you have to sign this contract in order to take this meeting. But we're really excited about this meeting. And I started reading the contract, and like one of the first lines said, any idea that you discuss at this meeting, we own it. We own the idea. This is a meeting to talk about if we want to work together, right? It's a meeting to talk about if they want to move forward with the webisodes and possibly go into a TV show. Well, I'm going to go in here and start talking about the storyline and the characters and all my ideas and the world that these characters live in. And the second I open my mouth, you're going to own it. Yep. This sounds like a huge setup. Mm-hmm. And they were like, it's a huge opportunity. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not walking into this with somebody owning what's every word coming out of my mouth.
Rightly
You
so.
know, if anything, like you should sign an NDA for me to walk into the room. Real
You know what?
talk.
It'll never happen like that, but I like the
It
idea.
won't. It won't. They're too powerful. These
Oh yeah,
companies, they're too big and they're too powerful. And people do it. People sign those
of course they do.
contracts and they rip them off. I know. I have a friend who has worked with this same company and they ripped him off twice.
Hmm.
Like straight up stole his intellectual property. Straight up took his ideas, owned them, and just paid him like pennies
Well, you know,
for
fool
what
me
it
twice,
was.
shame on me at that point.
What's that?
Fool me twice, shame on me.
That's what I told him. I said, you
Yep.
already knew the first time.
Hmm.
you
Yep.
know?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I was given a contract a long time ago. I did not sign the contract, but there was a clause in it that literally said any music I wrote for the rest of my life, they could claim property of.
No way.
Yep.
I haven't seen that one. That's a good
Oh,
one.
trust me, neither. I walked off, let's just say that set very quickly.
I bet. Wow, that's bold. I mean, they're all
know.
bold, but like that's really.
Yeah, but they know someone's going to eventually sign it because you know the carrot's being dangled in front of them.
Well, they're not even
And-
reading it. Half the people aren't even reading what they're signing. Like that agreement that I told you about, that was 5% of the publishing, no
Yep.
master royalties, no upfront fees, all of that. I didn't even really read through that. Like, it was just one of those things. I was like, well, this is how it's done. These people wouldn't screw me over. I was super young, in the dance world and in the business. And I was just like,
And you want to believe people aren't that actually evil.
yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. And then when I realized, years and years later, what had actually happened and like what that translates into and what that means financially, I was like, this is the worst deal I've ever signed in my life.
Yeah. So now that I mean, you've been independent basically for, what is it, 4 or 5 years for the most part? And
Yeah, I've never been signed to a label exclusively.
right,
I've
I mean,
never done an exclusive deal, but I've done
sure.
singles deals sort of like all across the board.
Right.
I've run my own label for about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was.
Even though I did have a release. I had a release 2 years ago in the middle of COVID on the
Mhm.
label.
Yeah.
That did pretty well. And then, yeah, I haven't had a release since then. I haven't released in about a year. But that's on purpose. It's not that I don't have records lined up and ready to go, but I just noticed a flood of music hitting the marketplace.
Yeah.
It went from 30,000 songs a week being released to 50,000 songs a week, like almost like
No
overnight.
kidding.
I could feel it. Like I could feel like, whoa, there's just an extra flood of music. So I checked the
Yeah.
numbers, and sure enough, it had gone from 30 to 50. And I was like, it's so
Wow.
crazy that I could feel that, because I pay attention to releases. I pay attention to the market and how many artists are dropping, and I pay attention to rollouts and things like that to try to learn what other artists are doing that's working well.
Right.
And I just decided that I didn't want to participate in that, what felt like trying to wave my hand in a sea
Right.
of.
Like, please, somebody look at me.
Yeah. I was like,
Right.
I'm not about to do that right now. My records are too valuable to be in that position.
What do you think? Do you think it was just like the pandemic and everybody making a
It
ton of music?
was. Everybody
Okay.
was making records. So,
Okay.
that first year of the pandemic, we didn't see that increase. But the second year is when people started rolling those records out. So we
Right.
saw an influx of and it's still happening.
Right.
Like those records are still rolling out that people were just stockpiling while they weren't touring.
I mean, the album I finished 2.5 years ago is only finally coming out this year.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, it takes a long time to make albums and music if you're doing it right. If you're, like really giving it the time and attention that a record, especially a hit, hits aren't hits for no reason. Like hits are hits because they were crafted and spent,
mhm.
normally there are exceptions to that rule, but a lot of times like a classic hit, like something that plays over and over and over for 50 years, 100 years, like there was a lot of time spent on those records, and they kept getting better and better and better over the years.
I think there's a yes and no to that because they weren't nearly as much of a factory that they are now, at least for, say, making a pop record. Like, there was never 20 writers on, a Bob Dylan song. There's one. And he probably wrote it relatively quickly. And it was just. But also, I don't think the concern was this needs to hit as many listeners. This needs to play to the algorithm. This needs to.
That's not what Bob Dylan records are about.
No,
You
no, not at
know,
all.
and also consider that Bob Dylan records are songwriting focused.
Yeah.
They're not production focused.
Nope.
And production is what takes the most time. The songwriting part's the easy part. That's the part that happens in 45 minutes or an hour. That's the songwriting.
Sure.
That's the magic of a record, right?
Yep.
It's everything that comes after that. It's the production. It's getting the mix right. It's like, everything else around the songwriting is what takes the bulk of the time.
Sure.
And we're not in a place musically now where acoustic records are working like that. Like no one's playing acoustic records on the radio, like not on mainstream radio.
No, 'cause it would be considered risky because everyone wants whatever has been playing for the last 6 months, which is
Yeah.
brutally painful, to be honest.
And when I say radio, I mean also, playlisting and things
Yeah,
like that. Playlists
it's all the
are the
same.
new radio.
They
Yeah.
They are, and the killer thing is, since the majors own Spotify,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to see an indie record on those playlists.
No.
So then, as an independent musician, how do you play with that system?
It's a careful balancing act, between existing in two different worlds. I've always been that way. I've always been that kind of an artist. I've existed both in the dance world and the pop world.
Yep.
I'm always straddling a fence, always, existing between the major labels and smaller independent labels, existing now between the Web 2 and the Web 3 world. I always have one foot in one world and another foot in another world.
Right.
And it's really important to understand those worlds from those perspectives. Like, I think about, I'm a label too, so I can do a deal with a label and I can negotiate that and also see their perspective at the same time because I understand how labels operate. I understand how they profit.
Yep.
So it's just like the marketing side is the most difficult side of putting a record out.
Yep.
And that changes with every single release. It's like the market shifts and moves so fast that once you think you have it figured out with one record, by the time you get to the next single, the person who is delivering for you on promotion with this outlet isn't delivering the same numbers they were, or it's not turning over the way that it was. So then you have to find, other people and other ways of doing things. And I'm still in that process of sort of like, defining my marketing blueprint and sort of like the core of what I'm going to do moving forward, because it was just this year that I decided I'm not signing to labels.
Really? Oh, really?
That was just this year that I made that decision. It's not to say the only way I can see myself doing a label deal is if it's a JV deal,
Sure.
like a joint venture
Yeah.
where my label is housed under a major or a larger independent.
Yeah.
I could see something like that. I could also see a situation where I'm with a distributor that offers label services.
That's what
I
we
could
did.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that as well. But it's just the opening of the Web3 space is really exciting to me because for the first time in my career, I feel like I don't have to rely on streaming. I don't have to rely on radio. Like
Hmm.
I can literally go into the Web3 space and make the same money that I would make on my entire album in that space in a month's time
Hmm.
than I would make in the Web 2 streaming.
And are you
Um,
thinking mostly like NFTs or?
Not just
Uh,
NFTs, you got to look
mm,
at all these blockchain labels that are popping
okay,
up right now. You
right.
know what I mean? And the blockchain system just makes royalty processing so easy, and the numbers just it's just so easy to do it, and it makes no sense that our accounting for artists is so complicated and convoluted, and it
Well,
makes no.
we know why it is that
We
way.
do know why. It was
Yeah,
designed like that for a reason.
yeah,
But, the blockchain network sort of eliminates all of that. It streamlines everything,
right. Direct.
and for about 5 years, I have been of the mindset that fans should be participating in the profit of the records,
Okay.
because fans are the driving force behind music, period. Like that's a full stop sentence. Fans are the driving force behind music. That's it. They're the greatest they're the most valuable member of my team.
Right.
If
Okay.
I'm talking about my team, if we're talking about manager, lawyer, agent, the fan base is the most valuable member of my entire team. My super fans will go to the moon for anything that I need.
Right.
Anything that I need. You know, and that's your team. You know what I mean? Like, I'm starting a Discord with my fans this week. I have about 30 super fans
Okay.
right now that we talk every week. I talk to these people every single week, and I know their lives. I know where they're from.
Wow.
They check in on my godson, or like we're family in a way. That's why I call my fans family, because
Oh, yeah. I see what you
yeah,
did there.
because
Yeah.
they're family to me. So, we have a very small group right now of 30, but it's quickly expanding. It's like invite only.
And this is Discord.
It's moving to Discord. So it was on Instagram as a
Oh
chat
wow.
room. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's an Instagram chat room with it's going to be about 30 people moving into a Discord, and then that is going to be probably like 50 to 70 people by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Just super focused people that I know, that I love, that are, super down. If I have a show in Tampa, I know that John, if I Venmo John $35, John will go to the local print shop, print out, 200 flyers of my show and post it all over the downtown
That's
area
cool.
where my show is happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's just one example. If I have a record coming out, I can have all 40 of those people pull their laptop up and put that record on rotate for fucking all day, every day. I have a streaming farm. Literally, I
Oh
have
my
a streaming
God.
farm with my super fans.
Right. Right.
So tell me why super fans should not be, making profits
No,
from the music.
you made a point I've never looked at in that light.
Yeah,
Um.
and it's important. Like they want to invest. Look, if I make a sweatshirt that says poop on it and sell it for $150, they will buy it. Not because it's like, oh my God, I love this sweatshirt.
No, it's because it's you.
It's because this is family now, and
Right.
I ride for her, and like I love her, and I'm gonna, if this is what she's selling, I'm buying it.
And then
And you get 1,000 people like that. You're a full on. You don't need anybody. You have 1,000 people like that. You just paid all of your bills
yeah,
for
no,
the whole
totally.
for the whole year, and then
Right.
some,
Right.
just off of a small, tiny little core base of people that are just a family.
Well, it's
You
that
know,
whole, what is it, 1,000 True Fans? That famous
yeah,
article?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's that on
Hmm.
steroids with Web3.
Right.
So it's like I always wanted to give fans the opportunity to drop $200 or $300 and buy pieces of the records. But it's like I explored a few different ways of how to do that. I considered creating a private IPO
Hmm.
where essentially an LLC or S corp would be created, and the only asset that this entity would own is either a single or a project, like an
Okay.
EP or an album. And then people buy shares of the company.
Okay.
And that's one way that it can be done using fiat currencies. Or in the Web3 space with cryptocurrencies and
Right.
what Blau is doing with Royal, I think is just really ingenious. And if you have music that connects with that audience, like let's talk about my audience and the Web3 audience, that's very synonymous in a lot of ways. My audience is mostly young white males.
Is it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely 85%. 85%
Wow.
of my audience is young white males, and that's the crypto audience.
You're right.
That's the Web3 world. It's
Right,
the
right, right.
same
Yeah.
audience. So it's like and my audience is like that because I come from the EDM world. I come
Right.
from the dance space where that's just sort of built into that
Yeah, it's more technology
genre
friendly. Yeah.
essentially. Um but it's starting to expand slowly. I notice when I drop pop records, like I'll get more females coming in,
Hmm.
and also speaking out about different issues in like with people of color and like things that were
Sure.
just being honest and truthful about situations like that in the music business, and really highlighting
Hmm.
that kind of stuff has also brought more diversity to my audience, which is really nice to see as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just such a cool time. Like I finally feel excited about music again because I don't need a record label. I don't need Spotify. I don't need any of these platforms that traditionally the business has made us feel like if you don't have power here, you don't exist.
Right.
And that's just not true. That's just not true anymore, especially with Web3 opening up, especially with super fans, wanting to participate in
Hmm.
ownership of the records. And then you're talking about reverse splits. Traditional major label splits are 80/20,
Right.
right? The record
Or
label takes
or 85/15 or yeah. Right.
Exactly. The record
Yeah.
label takes 80%, the
Yep.
artist takes 20%. So what if we cut the label out and
Right.
reverse that and the fans take 20% and the artist
Hmm.
takes 80%?
That's
And then
interesting.
I can go do my distribution deal and cut them in at 15-20% for label services.
Right. Yep.
I'm still making more than I would signing to a label.
Yes, you are.
The only reason it makes sense to sign to a label now is if you have a record that is catching fire culturally and you literally just need to run it through the system.
Hmm.
You just need to pump it through the machine. Think
Yep.
about it. These major labels and these big independent labels, they've been being built for decades. There is a network that is so
It's
deep.
a very efficient system when they want to
Yeah,
use it.
and
Yeah.
there's thousands and thousands of people all over the world with boots on the ground, offices in Germany, offices in Japan, offices here. So if you have a record that is showing signs of being a hit, all you have to do is funnel it through the machine,
Right.
and then you can have a bigger global worldwide hit. But without a record starting and beginning culturally, you might as well just put your cash through a paper
A
shredder.
blender. Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? You might as well just put your marketing dollars in a paper shredder and call it a day. So I'm saying all of that to say that without the core, without the super fans, without the cultural movement, you literally have nothing. Like, what's the point? And if I can do that, if I can get that on my own, that's the power. That's where the power is at. That's the value. So I don't really need a label until I'm ready to go global with something.
Well, let me ask you this, because I mean, you're able to do this because of your experience, the position you've been in, all the connections you've
Hmm.
made, all the work you've done.
All the times I've
All
fallen flat on my
right.
face. That's how
So
I get to do
you're
this.
you're able to do this, and you're pretty well known for what you do as well. So
Mhm.
if you were a brand new artist, say you're 22 years old,
I
you
would still do it this way.
would you? Okay.
I would still do it this way. I wish I had known all of this when I was a brand new artist, because I would have built it different.
Because
I would have built it in a different way.
how do you find you'll get the attention that you need doing it this way without, because I know certainly in my experience I went through the label system at first, and
Mhm.
that's certainly how I gained whatever fan base I have was by going
Mhm.
through that, and then eventually people came along the way, but you kind of have to have at least like a little bit of a fire that attracts people. And
I mean, like, if here's the thing. I heard this years ago and I thought it was so brilliant. I think advertising is important. I think marketing is really important. But I heard this years ago, and it always stuck with me. If you have to advertise something, then people don't need it. They
right,
don't need it. They
right.
don't need it if you have to advertise it. I think that there are certain songs, and I think there are certain artists that are truly needed, that are really, really needed and important and integral in people's lives, that help people. And
Who's an artist
if
you need?
an artist that I need, oh my gosh, there's this new artist I'm like obsessed with right now. There's so many new artists I'm obsessed with. They don't care about Spotify. That's what's crazy,
That's
is
cool.
that there's this whole new, like, melting pot of incredible artists that are like going viral on TikTok, and like,
So you're
you
discovering
know,
them via TikTok? Is that where?
I'm discovering them through social media. I'm
Okay.
discovering them through them getting on their Instagram and singing a song, and like, these kids aren't paying for marketing dollars.
Right.
They're just putting their art up there, and the art is good. It's fucking amazing, and a lot of them are doing, like, they'll take a chorus that we all know and love,
Sure.
and then they'll rewrite the verses, so it's something that's kind of familiar, and
Right.
it's
They're
like, oh,
flipping it. Yeah.
I really like that Drake record.
Hmm.
But then you fall in love with somebody's voice, and you're like,
Sure.
whoa, I gotta go see her other songs, and then you find out this girl's putting out an album. She's building a whole album right now, and she's teasing demos on her Instagram. And I'm telling you, if a couple of these artists that I'm watching right now, if a couple of these artists were like, I'm about to start selling shares of these songs, I would buy that shit like that. I would throw $1,000, $2,000, boom,
Hmm.
here, take this. Let me own a little piece of that. You know what
Interesting.
I mean? We don't need record labels. Like, it's the most mind-blowing position to be in right now, because it's the first time that artists are realizing that it's not necessary anymore. It's really
It's
not.
beautiful. No, no. I mean, I look at it as the worst bank loan you could possibly ever have.
The worst what?
Bank loan.
Oh, absolutely. Publishing deals the same way.
I'm all too aware of that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like the fans are out there, and to be honest, there's not a lot of people who have that special magic, like
Right.
real magic. You know what I'm talking about. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm talking about when you get a, like, my whole life, when a mic was put in my hand and I just opened my mouth, the whole room would stop.
Right.
Like, my whole life that's happened. So I know that I have something, You know, every time I push play on one of my records, people stop. Wait, whose voice is this? What song is this? You know, so I know that I have that thing that can't be taught. It can't be bought. It can't be streamed. It can't be, you know what I mean? It's just that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that as an artist, that will eventually connect and connect and connect and connect. And what we were talking about earlier about word of mouth,
Right.
that's the most valuable marketing still to this day. And that's what's happening. This one artist that I'm thinking about now, I'll tell you her name,
Yeah, please.
Asia Nairi. It's spelled Ayzhanyree.
Okay.
She's incredible. And that's just one. There's so many artists that I'm looking at right now. Ira Star is another one coming out of Nigeria. Like, these are artists coming out of pockets all over the world.
We would never.
You don't have to be in LA.
Right.
You don't have to be in a big city. We have Web 2 and Web 3 now. You know,
would you leave LA?
I would leave LA in a heartbeat.
What's stopping you then if you don't need it?
Mostly just because all of my friends are here right now.
Yeah.
You know, but if, like, let's say I'm going to London in a month. Let's say I go to London and an opportunity pops up for me there where I have a residency at a huge fucking club, or, you know, I'm in the studio with a huge producer all the time, then of course I would move wherever I need to move. I've always moved with the money. I always move with the money. That's how I ended up in LA.
Right.
I used to live in New York. My career started in New York.
That's right.
And every time I would come to LA, I would make money. And then when I would go to New York, it would just all be being
disappear.
spent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would disappear.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've always just followed the money because I'm not tied to a location.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I said, the only reason I'm here is because I've built such a great group of friends and family, yourself included, you know. Like, it's just nice to always be able to pick up the phone and be like, hey, you want to go grab a beer? Or
I
like,
know.
you know, that's what I would really miss moving. But, you know, it's a plane ride away to come back and visit.
Yeah. I mean, I almost left.
Yeah.
And
where were you gonna go?
Nashville.
Okay, cool. I could totally see you in Nashville.
I mean, yeah, there's no lack of music there by any means.
It's a great music scene. It's a really great, healthy music scene as well.
I mean, to be honest, I think it actually has a much better music community than LA does.
I could agree with that. Because it's more focused. It's like almost one genre, two genres. Like,
it's not even that part of it. It's, as a community, everyone's a lot more friendly.
Well, yeah, it's the South.
Yeah, I mean, it is that, but
Part of it's the culture.
Most people there aren't from the South, not in the music side.
But the music side isn't the bulk of Tennessee.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. I mean, and like I could not live in Tennessee, but I could live in Nashville. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's like a lot of my friends out here. My closest friends in LA are born and raised here.
Yeah.
You know, they're not. Yeah, absolutely. Half of my friends here are born and raised here.
My closest friends are all East Coasters for the most part.
Okay.
Which, I mean, and as a New Yorker, I guess, for the most part, I've always been pulled gravitationally towards other New Yorkers or, you know, Northeastern or Canadians. But, you know, that's just like Northeast.
The Canadians are so nice.
They are.
They're so nice.
They're wonderful people. But I want to talk about your online classes so what's the story with this?
So, you know, this started sort of with me when I decided that I wasn't gonna do label deals anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I need to figure out something that sort of supplements that income. Now, granted, it wasn't that much income to supplement. You know, I would say 70% of my income was actually touring.
Yeah.
So when COVID hit and that 70% touring was gone, I was just like, oh, wow.
I'm intimately in touch with that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was like I really got to sort my life out right now,
Yeah.
and the classes were one way that I could do that. My mom was a teacher
Hmm.
growing up, and I've been my best friend is a teacher. Like I've been around teachers my whole life. I dated a teacher, and so I really have a lot of respect for teachers. I think it's one of the most unappreciated, undervalued roles in our society, in the U.S. at least.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was like, how can I teach? Because I think it's so valuable education. How can I teach and make royalties?
Yeah.
Like how can I make that happen? So I started building these classes out on my own. And then at the same time, Music Alliance reached out to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing some classes with us?"
Okay.
I said, "It's funny you asked because I've already been planning them."
And
And
so you've
so
got
we kind of
two of
just,
them? Is that
it's two classes. Yes, Songwriting 101 and Music
okay?
Biz 101. So, yeah, the songwriting is just, learning tips and tools and techniques of great songwriting and just analyzing, how to make great chords, how to make great melody, how, 90% of top liners work, learning the world of songwriting and collaboration. And, by the end of the songwriting course, everybody has a fully finished song,
Cool.
and I teach them how to pitch it to labels, publishers, other artists.
Right.
I teach them how to pitch their records.
Cool.
And then the music biz course is actually quite unique. So the songwriting course, the reason the songwriting is unique is because it's my way of doing it.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
The music business one is unique because it's from an artist's perspective.
Right.
And that doesn't exist. Like, I think this is the first one of its kind to exist where an artist is talking about record deals, and speaking very, very candidly about, we're looking at actual deals. Right. And relevant deals that, were on the table for me 3 months ago, and then I'll put them together and they'll have to negotiate the deals. So one student will be there on the record label side, the other student will be the artist or the feature artist or the songwriter. So I put them in different positions and in real world scenarios where they have to figure it out, and like the scenario that they have on this latest, the first class was, for example, you are in a session, you finish a record with 3 collaborators, you sign split sheets, and you leave the room. Nothing ever happens with that record, right? Nothing ever happens. It's 5 years later. You end up deciding, hey, I think I want to try to refresh this record and redo it. Well,
Sure.
You go in and you change it significantly. You've added a bridge, you rewrote the pre-chorus, you changed some lyrics on the verses, and now you're ready to release this song, but you have your signature on a split sheet that says 33, 33, 33. Right. So now how are you going to handle this situation? So I put them in real life, real world situations where they have to talk me through it. Talk to me about what you're going to do. So, spend some time, think about it, and then let's come back and let's talk about what we're going to do in this scenario or that scenario.
What would you do in that scenario?
You would get on the phone with
you'd
your
call the other
collaborators.
co-writers. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd get on the phone and you call your collaborators and you'd say, hey, look, you remember that record we did way back in the day? Well, I redid it and it actually came out really freaking cool. I want to release it, but we should talk about, adjusting the splits. Yeah. Because obviously I've changed a lot about it. How do you take a listen to the record? Let me know what you guys feel would be fair, and let's just chat.
Right.
That's a good way to approach it. Hopefully you're dealing with good people who just want to be fair.
Right. Well, and that's the hope until they get their management involved. And
yeah.
I mean,
but it's very rare that I will even deal with managers. I'll
Really?
be honest with you. I really, I try to deal with artists that do their own business.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that an artist is running their own business, I'm like, cause as me as an artist, I'm
Right,
like,
like we have something in common here. And
yeah, like we can talk artist to artist, and it's a different kind of conversation.
Totally.
So I have a lot more. I mean, if I'm being honest, I have a lot more respect for artists like that.
Yeah.
You know your shit, and you're focused on knowing it. And if I see an artist is trying to handle their business, and I can tell that they don't really know
Mm-hmm.
their shit, I teach them.
Right.
I had a conversation with one of my sound designers today. I said, like, you should be getting master royalties off of this, because it wasn't just sound design that you changed. You added an ARP that really, brought a lot to the table on this record. It wasn't like a super integral part. It didn't change the success of the song and whether it's going to be a hit or not, but it did change the master
But he
recording.
contributed to it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's additional production.
Yeah.
So I was like, you should know that when you do things like this is over and above mixing. This is over and above sound designing. And so we should talk about giving you a small percentage of the master on this.
That's nice of you, because that's extremely uncommon.
This is what we all should be doing. And this is why I'm talking about stuff like this, because this should be normal. And let me tell you, Matt, when you get into a place where where as the artist, I don't have to hoard anything,
Right.
because I'm not accepting 20%. I'm not accepting 30% of my record. Remember what I was talking about fans taking the 20% and I take the 80%?
Yeah, exactly.
When I take 80%, I have so much to give.
You don't care about, yeah, of course.
I have so much to give. So why would I keep that from the people that are helping me create this magic and finish the records and mix the records and master? My mastering engineers get master royalties.
Yep.
So it's like, once you allow people to stop taking from you and using you and abusing you, and you take your power back and you take your ownership back, you can give so much more to everyone else that is deserving of it. Because these shareholders ain't deserving of my shit. No. You know what I mean? The shareholder who doesn't even know my name.
Nope.
You didn't even know my name. You could have named one song. You could have named one of my songs, and you're over here profiting off my music.
Yes.
So, like, I'm not trying to sound like angry or bitter, because I'm not in that place.
Actually, you are incurably optimistic.
I'm in a place where I'm very healed from the trauma and the toxicity of the business. I'm very separated from it now, and I do feel very optimistic. And I'm happy. I'm excited.
That's amazing.
I'm engaging with my fans every day. We're building together. My fans hear the demos. They're like,
you let them in.
Absolutely. Like, we make this album, they're gonna own part of the album.
That's true. Right.
So they're gonna help make the album.
Wow.
Like, that's what's so cool about this, is that it's community based, it's cultural based, and it's not, there are no leeches. There is no hoarding. We're sharing, and that's the coolest part about it.
Unreal. It's eye-opening. I mean, because I'd like to think I'm pretty forward-thinking with, certainly like music business and music tech and everything like that. But no, you've got my head turning in ways I haven't turned it yet.
I share it, and I say these things, and a lot of people would say, oh, don't talk too much about what you're doing. I'm so happy to share what I'm doing, because if other artists can do this, if I can do it, other artists can do it.
Right.
And and we can all take back our power, and we can all, fans can profit. I mean, this can become a really cool ecosystem that feels healthier, that's not as toxic, that doesn't cause trauma to creatives. This is traumatic. Like what we go through with these deals it's traumatic.
That's what's so interesting because, you know, we're on opposite ends of the same coin here in like, let's just call it the music business trauma coin, right?
Right.
And but your side of it, because for me, like, I don't share, and I'm hugely protective of, you know, what I do and my intellectual property. Like, nobody sees or hear, you know, there might be like some little like clip of me playing guitar, you know, messing around the studio. But as far as like, no one hears a demo until it's a finished song. And then nobody, like, the only people who will ever do a remix for me are like really, I do not give out stems or anything. And
right.
And it's because of, you know, the experiences I've had in the music industry where you know, my work's been taken advantage of. I've been taken advantage of.
I understand it.
And also coming from a family where it was, they're artists and, you know, they had their work taken advantage. You know, it was a different medium. They were in photography, or are in photography, I should say. But I was like, from a young age, it was kind of like grilled into me of, you always protect your own work and your intellectual property. So the hardest thing for me to get my brain around with, you know, a lot of the Web3 stuff, and because I had a neighbor, he moved away, I guess a few months ago, unfortunately, but he was like right at the cutting edge of everything NFT, crypto, and he for basically 6 months, we would go like once a week and get a beer together at, you know, the Hermosillo down the street, and he would try to get into my head of like, no, just give it all away. And my gut reaction is fuck you. And, you know, and so that's the thing I'm trying to reprogram. And,
we're not giving it away. You know, we're not giving it away. People are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Artists are making millions of dollars. It's not giving anything away.
Right.
It's creating a platform where fans can invest in their favorite artists and profit off of the results. And you know, really build and grow something together. We're building essentially building a company together.
Right.
You know, and I'm at the center of my company. You're at the center of your company. And look, you know, I probably will be one of the only people doing this, and I probably will post my splits. I probably will publicize all of the splits on my album.
I mean, that's going to be great PR.
Yeah, I most likely will publicize the split, the fan share split. I will publicize the distribution split or JV split. I will publicize the split between my creators. You know, because how can I sit here and talk about being fair and equality and doing the right thing, and I'm over here hiding stuff? I don't need to hide anything.
Right.
I didn't even need to hide what I'm doing. If the whole world of artists copies what I'm, you know, what I'm about, and it's not just me that's doing this. There are many other artists that are doing the same thing. You know, even if we can get a fourth of the creatives over here, to really take their power back and own, you know, and I'm not giving up full ownership of my stuff.
No, of course.
I would never do that. It's a strategy, and people do. You know,
I've seen
it's a strategy, but it's just not for somebody who makes hits. No, thank you.
Well, then will they be? I mean, this might be. Well, I mean, you're open enough about it. Will you be putting out like individual like stems, parts of songs, or are people just going to be investing into the master as a whole?
Most likely going to be investing into the master. Now, I probably will do also an NFT sound pack, like a sample pack from the album that samples stems from the album. And people can, you know, buy into those and do what they like with those.
That's the thing that's the thing I always am questionable about, like with rhythmic shit, whatever. But when it comes to like melodic material, or say you have a vocal in there, and then someone uses that vocal in another song, or, you know, whatever publishing nightmare. I don't know how that looks with, I guess, Web3 yet.
I mean, a lot of us don't know how a lot of things look in
Yeah,
Web3
fair.
yet. You know,
Okay.
I'm on Twitter. I'm in Twitter chat rooms every single day. You know, just listening to other artists and following other drops. Like I'm following NFT drops every day. Like, oh, you know, watching how this artist rolls that out and that artist rolls that out. And I find it so interesting. And what I love about this community is that everyone is so excited to share
Hmm.
what they're learning. And artists are excited to say, like, you know, this was a mistake that we made. This was a fail, but this is how we, you know, turned it around. Or
Right.
this is what we learned by falling on our face. And this was a successful drop, and this was why it was successful. And everybody's just sharing all of that information and, like, how are you structuring your ownership deals? What does that look like in the smart contract?
Right.
Can the NFT be manipulated? Can it be collaborated with? Can it be, you know, how does it, how, what's the worth in the secondary market as opposed to the first market? Like there's so many layers of it to discuss and analyze and figure out, but it's so fun. Like it's so fun,
Yeah,
like just
I
figuring
mean,
it out.
it's obvious how excited you are.
Yeah, it's so fun. And I just feel really blessed to finally be in a place because, you know, a year of saying no thank you to record deals.
Hmm.
Like I was talking to a friend on the phone and I was like, you know, it's not that I don't have music to release. It's that I've turned down 7 record deals because they just don't make, like, nothing makes sense to me. It just
Right.
doesn't make sense. Why am I signing this? And she said, wow, that must have felt really good saying no to 7 record
No
deals.
doubt.
And
Yeah.
I said, no, it felt fucking terrible.
Really?
It felt terrible
Huh.
because I was being undervalued
Uh.
every time I
So
turned
they
around.
they were shit deals.
Of course, that's why they're not
Yeah. Right.
signed.
Okay. Okay.
That's
So
why
it
they
wasn't,
were.
but it wasn't like a principal thing. It was like this is just a shitty deal that I would never
Yeah, it was
accept.
a
Okay.
shitty deal, but they're all
Yeah.
shitty deals. That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even a 50-50 deal is like, well, we'll do 50-50, but we're not investing any money.
Right.
Well,
Right.
then,
Then what's the
so
point?
what's the point?
Why?
I'm just gifting you half of the
Yeah.
record at
No.
that point.
Exactly. And like the promotion you're gonna do one Instagram post ever.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
call up somebody at
Right.
Spotify, probably not get on a playlist. I'm gonna make the playlist calls,
Yeah.
you
Totally.
know, and it's just like, what's the point?
Right. No. I mean, yeah. Because I learned very quickly, and this because I mean I've like I've done a little vacation and like here's a track on a label and you know here's a track or an EP on a different label, but you know over the last 5 years, but really for the most part, I've done everything really on Isorhythm, and
Okay.
I did that because as an experiment, I I put out, well, I just started looking at the streaming numbers really, and the streaming
Mm-hmm.
numbers on what was coming out via my label versus what was coming out via other record labels. There was
Mm-hmm.
virtually no difference. Often my records did better too because, and maybe that's because I like what I would put out on my own label was stuff I actually really cared about, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so they were like personal records. But then I remember like an intro of a track, which is like so I made the actual track itself like didn't get any traction at all, but the intro track it's put on some it was like a ambient playlist, something like that. Thing racked
Mm-hmm.
up 5 million plays just on a 1 minute intro track, and
Yeah.
I mean if it's roughly you know $3,000 per million plays, give or take, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means that track. I mean, then the distributor takes their cut too. But this one little minute-long thing over the course of 4 years or 5 years ultimately ended up pulling in around 20 grand,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
is more than 5 years on a different record label I was signed to with everything I did with them.
Oh, I believe it. I have records that, you know, I've made more with 5,000 streams than 5 million streams than I have with 50 million
Yeah.
streams.
Yeah, I
It,
believe it.
it really, that's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense for me. Like, I'm getting all
No.
of these offers, and it's just like, what's the point? And half these people probably just want to sign me because I have a name and my audience is already built in, and it's
Well,
going to
that's
do
the only
numbers
reason why they'd want to
regardless.
sell. Yeah, it's
So it's like, well, we don't even have to spend money. It's already going to do a
well,
million.
there's
Well,
no
I could
artist
do that.
development at all.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
It's they just want to take the thing that already has its own machine working underneath it and
Mhm.
profit off it.
Yeah. But that's charity. I'm not giving charity
No,
to a
no, no,
record label.
not to them. So when do we get to hear the new music?
Well, I'm going to finish the full album before I start rolling things out. I'm
Okay.
probably going to release 2 EPs, 3 songs per EP, and then the full album will be those 2 EPs combined, plus like 5 or 6 more records.
Okay.
I'm like 6 records in right now.
Okay.
The whole album is written and vocals are recorded. It's just the production, like what
Right.
I was telling you, takes the longest amount of time.
Yep.
That is being done now.
Okay.
And I've given myself a 6-month deadline. So the album will be done in 6 months. And
Soon. Okay.
I'll see at that point exactly if I'm going to do a JV deal, if I'm going to do a distribution deal with label services, if I'm going to do a blockchain based label, if I'm going to do my own platform, like, are NFTs going to roll out first? Like, once the music is done, then I can kind of, it's much easier to build out the team when the
Yeah, well, the
product is in
product's done.
place,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So, that's sort of my plan. The next 6 months is like a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
get to
Yeah.
just finish the records and enjoy my time in the studio. And then afterwards, just figure out how best it will play out in the marketplace, and how we can just maximize the potential of these records, because they're huge. Like, the songs on the album are big records.
Nice.
So I'm excited.
I can't wait to hear it. Where can people go find your online your courses? Because I know it started. When this airs, it will have started a week previously.
Yeah. But people can still buy the click to buy courses. So they'll basically be watching the videos from every week.
Okay.
And then another teacher will facilitate the classes.
Okay.
So I won't necessarily be grading the homework. Another professor will be doing all of that and facilitating the coursework.
Right.
But the click to buy classes are cheaper. They're at a discount.
So you're grading. It's not just.
That's why the live courses are more expensive, because it's actually, they have those students have access to me,
right,
and we're building their songs together.
Totally. No, that's a really, that's an immersive experience, so to speak.
Yeah, and then after the 6 weeks, the courses will go into an archived click to buy thing, and those are self-paced.
Okay.
So the live courses can be a bit difficult because it has to fit in with somebody's schedule every week on this day at this time.
Right.
But the archived courses are cool because you can self-pace it. You can watch it at your own pace, move through it as fast or as slow as you would like. And I'm always around on socials. I even say for the archived courses, like, reach out to me at Bright Lights 333 on Instagram. Cool. Just let me know that you're taking the courses so I can, like, keep an eye on you if you need anything. Like, I'm here if I can help. So the courses are extremely valuable. We've been getting so much incredible feedback already. The first live round is at capacity, like sold out. So that was really cool to see that. We kept it super small, but there were a ton of people who really wanted to get in to the first round. And it's great.
Where do we find, what's it called? Where do we find it?
You can just go to my website, brightlightsofficial.com. Okay. And at the top it says online courses.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give it a look. All right.
Check it out.
I will. Such a pleasure talking to you and seeing your face.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. I'll see you in person soon.
All right, honey.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That was me talking to Heather Bright, PKA Bright Lights. Go check out her online courses at brightlightsofficial.com if you're into that sort of thing. Look her up on the Instagram and the TikTok under brightlights333, where she is constantly dropping very valuable bits of knowledge. Until then, see ya.